Good afternoon. This is Melissa with the StockSwoosh.com and welcome. Welcome to DTV. This actually was a gap down failure that I saw at 9:30 that it was a failure. I called it right away as a failure and I said you could buy it. And, I do not do my failures in the reverse direction, but the funny thing is people in my trading room do. At least two people said they did it. I don't know how many others did and didn't cop to it. Because I don't really teach to do the failures, but I absolutely can spot them. And I also said you can buy this again when it comes into 60, which it's doing right now. It did. It held 60, and you could have bought it right in there, put the stop under 60. Target for this today is really 60, 61, 62, 63. I mean, it's going to get to $63 today. But it's not a short. All right, it wasn't a short as of 9:30. And actually, this is a real failure. So, like, this is not something I'll go look at as a continuation gap or anything like that. This is a gap down failure. And by the way, this didn't rate high enough. It wasn't over 20 points. I watched it anyways because, there wasn't anything this morning that rated over 20 points. So I said, you know what? I'm going to watch this in PayX and see what sets up. I spotted this immediately as a failure and the PayX to work. So what happened with this? I'll show you the 1 minute chart. Let's look at it first. I mean, I tell you, a long time ago in another place far away in a different land, in other trading rooms that exist out there, even today, people are shorting this thing and losing their shirts. Or they did already. I said this is a failure right here. And I'll tell you why in a minute, but you could have bought it here and put the stop under 46. When this rallied up and set up, I knew people in my room were looking to short it. I said, don't short it, don't short it, don't short it, don't short it. It's a failure. But other trading rooms, I'm sure, and other gap traders who do not have a system like mine, which, I have the best gap system out there. Why? It's detailed. It's absolutely detailed. And I'd love to say, you can look at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things. And that's it. But that you can't. Okay? The edge in trading that I have, okay, is my ability to be able to see enormous details in things that are so powerful. 1, 2 little tiny things that if you don't know to look for it, you'll never see it in a million years. But I know what to look for and I see it. So other trading rooms shorted this today. Why? It was a down gap. It could have worked. It didn't work. And by the way, this one rated 18 too, just like PayX, except remember at 18, it's a 50-50 chance of working or failing. So that's why I wasn't hog wild on this. And when I spotted the failure, immediately the failure at 9:30, I said off. It's an 18. It didn't get over 20. It doesn't rate. And then I got the proof on the open. But I'll show you in a minute. Traders shorted this in here. Then it rallied back up and held the high of the day. And I'm sure people got the confirmation and they thought that it was going to follow through lower, added more. I would do this on anything if I didn't see what I saw. All right. But I didn't. I didn't do anything with this today. And I called this as a buy in here actually then because it held 75. I said you could buy it here with a stop under 75. So if people didn't buy it here, you could buy it here. And you got paid huge if you bought it here. Never broke under it. But do you see what happened here? So people shorted this here in trading rooms. People added or shorted this as a new short here in trading rooms. Traders, individual traders, trader people, not power money people. Power money people actually bought this stock today. Not only is this is not one of these ones when I say, oh, it's a rallying to resistance type of failure. No, this got bought today and is getting bought. And this is actually getting bought. Okay, this is actually 100% getting bought today. And so it's not going to come in, okay, at all. And that's why I said you could buy it again when it holds 60. Buy it again when it holds 60, I said. I'm sure people in my room are doing this now. I closed out the room at 12, but I'm sure people bought it there. Targets, targets 61, 62, 63. It's hardly going to commit at all here, though. Why? No one's going to sell out of this. Scalpers might have shorted this up in here, which was a terrible thing to do. No trader should be shorting this now. It's a failure on the day, number 1. And number 2, people that bought this that run big money are buying this today. So they're not going to sell right out of it. They're just buying it. This is a brand new buy. This is a brand new buy today. It's a failure and the stock's higher. And the stock's going to make new highs now after this. I don't know when. But it'll break over this. It'll make brand new highs sometime this year now after this failure. This is a real failure here. It's not going down. All right. So anyways, what happens in here is people get tricked into thinking that this is going to hold. It does not hold. And then some people that don't use hard stops, which is not the way I trade. I use hard stops. Give it a little more room and a little more room, a little more room and a little more room. And finally they give it up. And then finally, over about 75.60, everybody should be giving it up and really does give it up. And then it gets the last push up into here. And this type of action here, a bottoming tail with a green head, is not an exit. It's actually a sign that it's going to go boom. And that's what it did in the 15 too. This guy here, this 10-15 bar actually was red a little bit. It had the bottoming tail and it blew. Went over 60.50. When they make those tails, they're like doing, it's like they want to jump. You bend on your knees to jump and you jump. And that's what the bottoming tail does. That's what this motion is. So people got all stopped out of this. All the traders that were trying to short this in here and had stops or didn't have stops, they were shorting this and they got stopped out. But the stock was really getting bought. Got bought right here. They weren't letting it go down. And how did I see that? Immediately. I have a great eye. I know what to look for. This is higher here in the day. These typically are the ones that go actually and do daily buy setups. This will do a daily buy setup over 61.50. And when it hits over there, I actually think it's going to $63 today. This doesn't need the market. I don't know if it's going to do that. That is what it needs to do to get to 63. I think it actually gets to 63 today if it does that. Forget the 62 number. But I don't know if it's going to do that because it didn't do it yet. If not, this will rally back up and get to about 61 in here. Tomorrow this is buy. This is a continuation gap higher tomorrow. So what did this do? How did I know it failed? Doot. High of this bar is 58.45. Low of this bar is 58.46. It came right down and bounced like the Dickens. And I saw it. I saw it and said it, screamed it immediately. I said, it's a failure. Off to PAX. And that's what I did. And then people in my room bought it when I screamed failure. But, you know, the interesting thing is when you know what to do, when you know when stuff works, it can use it for so much. You can A, trade with the information when things work. B, don't take the trade when you know it's a failure. Or C, take the trade in the opposite direction when you know it's a failure. So there's no downside to knowing what the correct information is. There's so much you can do with the right information. You got the right knowledge, you got the right information, the world is yours. And honestly, I'm so blessed that I know and see this stuff in the market and that it's real. Really, 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 really real. And one more thing I want to say. The other reason that this worked, that this held tier 2, okay, that I called it as a failure, which I think was somewhat in my subconsciousness, because I didn't actually verbalize it, but I'm so good at trading that I'm intuitive when I say things. Somewhere in my consciousness, I also knew that this actually was a bullish gap here that happened on 5-3. Doesn't look like much, but it actually was a good buy. Now, again, I don't buy up gaps. I'm doing the downs, but I could. You could learn my Golden Gap system, rate the gaps to the upside. This gap would have rated well. Failed on the day, but was the correct direction to buy that gap. It was a bullish gap. It was a good buy. And look what happened after that. It was a good buy. All right. And so the powers that be. And this gap, this one person, this one gap in no man's land that looks like nothing unless you know what I know, is everything. And this chart's higher. It'll break over this high this year after today's failure. So you have to know what to look for. If you don't know what to look for, trading doesn't make sense. Some days it might to you, but it will not make sense more than it does if you don't know what to look for. That's the interesting thing about the market. If you know what to look for, it's an amazing, incredible, beautiful, fantastic world with an unlimited potential for income and just It's just the most amazing thing. And when I see things like this and I see it, I can't tell you how excited I get. It's so exciting, the fact that I can see that. No one probably saw that but me today. I'm probably the only one in any trading room out there that called this as a failure at 9:30. I'm so good at what I do. And this is the reason I'm teaching people. And, you know, whether people know that or not, decide to take my class is up to them. But I'm telling you, I am the one to teach people how to trade these gaps because I really know how to do it well. I know how to do it better than anyone. And this stuff is real. That's all I have to say. It's real. And I couldn't make it up if I tried. The stock's doing it. The market's doing it. I just know how to read it. Okay? And this is important. To think that you can just trade and not know how to do these things is egotistical. You do have to know this stuff. And I'm more convinced than ever that if you don't know how to trade gaps, you really shouldn't trade at all. Learning how to read gaps will help you be able to read charts better. I'm not saying you have to trade the gap. I'm saying you have to understand gaps and understand how to read gaps. And in that understanding, it will make you a better trader to trade and read charts and to trade and read any strategy that you're doing. Because there is nothing better than understanding and learning how to read gaps. Now, whether you choose to trade the stock the day of gaps or not is a different story. But to be able to read this, like let's just say you don't do gaps. You don't do gaps. Okay? You trade in trends or whatever you do. Whatever your strategy is, who knows? If you understood how to read what happened here today based on the failure of this gap to go down, based on the gap that I just talked to you about back in May, if you were a core trader, a swing trader, if you traded buy setups, if you traded trends, if you did anything at all, should buy the stock here today or the next day based on the information from what? From the gap, from the understanding of the gap, from the understanding of what's happening in the chart. And how do I know? Everything I know because I'm studying gaps. That's how I've gotten good at reading charts and these numbers. Okay, it's everything. It's the price, but it's most importantly the gap, because the gap is the event, and the gap is telling me about that price. It's telling me a story in that price, and there is a story in these gaps if you know how to read them. Not everyone, only the goodies. And again, you gotta have a system to rate them. You gotta know what to look for. You know, I'm telling you. You've got to have the right information to learn how to trade these things right. People got creamed today in this shorting this traders. And no one that runs big money was shorting this today, and it won't get shorted. It won't go red. It'll stay green today. If it continues over the high of the day and goes up for 61.50, it's going to $63. I don't know if it's going to do that on its own without the market. But if it doesn't do it today, it's going to do it tomorrow. And I actually think it does do it today. Why? I said it's a buy if it holds 60. It's going to be sloppy if it goes under 70 to buy it. It held 60. It held 60. And the stop would have been less than 10 cents. And it's going to try to get over all this here. It's going to be tough going to get over this stuff here in this 30. But the power is coming in here today, and the stock is getting bought, and there's no two ways about it. And when something has a certain direction with the power behind it, you don't trade against it. And that's why the idea of scalping is really just, you know, to scalp against a trend is too risky. Doing something that's a failure is risky unless you are certain that it's a failure. I know, I can tell. So, you know, basically that was it. I knew at 9:30. It was a great call. And, you know, I don't trade in my reverse, but people in my room know that I make good calls, and they did it. So it was a huge trade for the people that bought it on my call as a failure. Anyways, this is Melissa with thestockswoosh.com. This is DTV. This is a failed bearish gap in the day, and it actually is a failure. This will not do a continuation gap. This is actually getting bought today. This is a long. So I called it as a long this morning, even though, you know, I like to short. So if you'd like more information on how to trade gaps, I think that's something that every single person that trades in the market needs to learn and understand in order how to read charts better and understand the other things that someone might be doing with their own trading. Okay, because this stuff is very, very, very important. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that it's easy to get. It's not. It took me over 3 years to figure out the stuff that I know right now. Okay, this isn't like something you can figure out in a week or even a year unless you can learn it from someone. But it is so important. And the stuff I see is real. And gosh darn it, it's good. So, you know, if you bought this in here at 60, you carried it through, it's got to break over the high. Once this pushes up over the high, I think it gets over up to the 61.50. And after that, we'll have to see from there. Look, people are going to try to short this again in here. People are going to try to short this again on here on a lower high on this 15-minute, even though the stock has had 1, 2, 3, 4 solid, big, fat, humongous, gigantic green bars in the 15-minute chart. Day traders will still try to short this in here, thinking that this is a resistance and this is making a lower high and it's going to make a lower high here if it pivots. People will still try to short this. And it is not a short. It's not coming in. It's not a short. It was never a short after 9:30 today. And again, you can't just look at pivots to trade. It's another thing I teach too. So this is Melissa with thestockswoosh.com. If you'd like more information, email me at melissa@thestockswoosh.com. I'm doing the gap class this weekend, the last one before earnings season, June 29th and 30th. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.